Welcome everybody to the Books by Adrian author platform. I started recording this in the middle of it because our boys here, we were talking in the green room and we were laughing. So let's just go ahead and get started. I'm your host Adrian. These are my guests. We have Adam Stevenson here, and we have Richard Holliday here, and we're just gonna pick up right where we left off from Livestream Sunday, gentlemen. Let's talk a little bit about Livestream Sunday because it went well. Oh no, Bethany's book.
The books are committing suicide here.
Oh no.
My guy, you got to get those book stands. Like, you can't just
I was just relying on the will of God to help them
yeah,
out.
just hold them up.
Just hold them up.
Lord, hold them up. Just hold them up, Lord.
Oh dear me.
Yeah. So Livestream Sunday went well, I thought. The chat was lively, everything was going good, it was fun. How'd it go for you guys?
I loved it. Yeah, I loved it. I didn't get the chance to say it, so I'm going to say it now. Thank you for all the birthday wishes that I got in the chat and stuff like that. A thousand monkeys with 1,000 typewriters could not convey the emotion and happiness that made me feel. So thank you.
Adam, I wish you had many, many more birthdays.
Thank you.
But you are getting on, so it might not be that many more.
Yeah, I know.
We should probably stop counting at this point, I think.
Then I don't get a 40th, man. I can invite all my writer friends over for my 40th.
The trouble is, you're going to get to a
It's
point
really
where so
sweet that
many
you think you're
candles,
going to make it to 40.
you're going to have so many candles on that cake, Adam. You're going to be like, you light a candle, it kind of like spontaneously combusts.
Yeah.
Humongous explosion.
We were talking before in the green room. Adam asked me if John Cena did the voice to the music at the beginning.
Do your impersonation, Adam. Do your impersonation.
Yeah, do your impersonation now in front of everybody. Go ahead.
Check the mic and make sure it sounds right, boy. I've been practicing that for weeks for when I come on the show. I jive to it every time it comes on. I wait for it and
It's pretty good.
I know.
Yeah. I use that same song on the trailers for Livestream. That's like the song for Livestream Sunday, so I like use that.
It's like the official soundtrack to Livestream Sunday.
Yeah, and I was using it on the outros, but I used a different one this week on the outro. I'm just playing around with it, seeing how it feels. I kind of like it.
Come on.
So we got about halfway through our outline during Livestream Sunday, so we got a little bit of stuff to mine from here. What are some of your favorite novels, and what have you learned from them that you apply to your writing? Let's go with Adam first.
Right, okay. Well, I have Jadroy's Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick, which is my favourite novel. That is one of my favourites. The others are I Am Legend. I forget the writer's name. Please forgive me on that one.
Richard
Madison was a great. Thinking of the time that came out. Matheson? Something like that.
Think of the brand of sausages, Matheson sausages.
Yeah, great book, especially when you consider that book came out in like 49? That must have been mind-blowing in 1949, man. That must have been insane for 1949.
Stuff like that, gets lost in the shuffle sometimes.
Yeah,
you don't think about that, like what the impact that it had at the time.
At the time, yeah. Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut was amazing. I'd never seen a book where you've got such a unreliable narrator to the fact where you're like, that is this a weird acid dream he's having, or is this legit, man? Like, And another one that you love, Adrian, is don't know if you can see it. It's The Killing Joke.
The Killing Joke is a damn good one.
It was a damn good one because I know that you done the is it the Long Halloween you had on your?
Yeah, I've got it around here somewhere. Yeah.
I don't have it with me, but also Watchmen is, even if you're not into comic books, Watchmen
I have that here too. Yeah, The Long Halloween, Watchmen, the Sandman series. Is
had
basically
to be honest.
Oh my god, it's incredible. I mean, it won what's the I think it won the Mark Twain Award for like 2 different issues, and afterwards they like changed the rules that comic books couldn't win that award anymore. after Neil Gaiman won it like twice. And it's the Salmon is this incredible saga about Dream. It personifies Dream into a character, and he rules over the realms of dreams, and it's all about like how he maintains order to it, and how it erupts into chaos, and how he interacts with the other godlike beings of the universe and his siblings, which all make up like the endless. So you have Dream, you have Destiny, Death, Destruction, Despair, Delight, who becomes Delirium, and Desire. And each of them is just the personification of this human characteristic, this thing that makes us human, personified into a god. It's incredible storytelling. There's an issue where he shows us what's going on behind the scenes in Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. Like, he shows you that the god of dreams essentially made a deal with Shakespeare to like feed him all these great ideas, but there was a price to it, and it was that he had to do two specific plays for him, and one of them was Midsummer Night's Dream. And that's why it's so weird. That's why it doesn't fit with any of Shakespeare's other work, because it was part of a debt that he owed to Dream. It's like this crazy.
That sounds
crazy
amazing.
story.
That
It's
sounds
incredible.
amazing.
You gotta read it. You gotta read it. The whole series is incredible.
And it's getting a Netflix series, I believe.
It is,
well.
yeah. And they also did like not audiobooks, but like radio play, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
forget
know
what
what you
that's
mean.
called. Audio dramatization,
Audio
which I hear is
dramatization.
very good. Yeah. It has the man who plays Professor X in the newer X-Men movies. What's his name?
James, he's from my end of the woods. James McAvoy.
James McAvoy, exactly.
Yeah,
he's like spearheading the cast in the audio.
He's good.
It's really good.
He's a good
Really
actor.
good.
Yeah,
He's fantastic. He's an incredible actor. All right. So Richard,
Oh,
how about you?
We're talking about my favourite novels. So, my favourite authors. I think there's a couple that come to mind. The first one for me is James Herbert, who is like the British Stephen King, and he writes in this really kind of like visceral, guttural, unliterary kind of prose style that I really dig, because it just goes straight to the plot, and it just kind of really, it sounds like I've just been punched.
Sorry.
That's fine. And he just writes in this very sort of, shoot from the hip, guttural, gutsy prose, and I just love it. And you can just read those words, and you can feel everything that's going on, which is really good. And I think the second one of my kind of author crushes is Michael Crichton of the Jurassic Park fame.
That's my answer.
What a fantastic book. I could read that cover to cover, start to finish, over and over again. It's just a fantastic, and the way he puts like the sort of science is so believable, but it doesn't condescend to you. It's very accessible, and fantastic books. One of my favorites.
Yeah, Michael Crichton is definitely one that I bring up a lot when people ask me writers that I've learned from, because in my youth, in my teen years especially, I went through a real hardcore Michael Crichton phase where I read everything that he put out, like everything. And
oddly enough, a lot of his books I found are actually quite hard to get.
Now maybe, back then they were everywhere. He was at the height of his fame.
I'm trying to sort of slowly build up my collection. I've got Jurassic Park. I've got The Lost World, which is another fantastic book.
I like The Lost World better than
That's
Jurassic Park. I really love rereading The Lost World. There's something about, and I know that it's this weird thing that only exists because they made him write it, but oh my god, it's so good.
It really works. And he's got the other two I read of his, Timeline.
Timeline.
That's a good
Timeline's not one of my
inspiration
favorites though.
It's not bad, but I think one of my favourites, apart from Jurassic Park, is Airframe, about the air crash investigation, which sounds kind of quite mundane and pedestrian, but it's a real thriller. And that's one of the lessons that I take away from him, is the way that he puts a thriller into anything. I mean, Disclosure is a thriller about a legal case, about harassment. And this is kind of
Like
what I want.
that's the plot. Is like somebody gets accused of sexual harassment, and it's a thriller, you know.
And this is kind of what I want to do in my own writing. I kind of want to kind of turn I use the phrase I like to turn the mundane into the macabre. You know, take things we might see all the time in our sort of normal lives and make them kind of creepy, scary, thought-provoking. I mean, to take an example from my own work, in Nightmare Tenant, my novella that I released in March, that everyone should read, please buy it. I'm pretty sure if you read this, you will never look at a shower hose the same.
I haven't.
You know what I mean?
I haven't.
Are you terrified every time you go and have a shower?
I'm not. Well, I'm not going to. This is going to sound crazy. I read it twice before I done my review. So I read it twice, and you're welcome. No, thank you. And I cleaned my bathroom a day or so later, and then I was in the bathroom doing something, and the shower hose actually fell, and I screamed like a schoolgirl because of how it fell, because of how long it is. I actually, I could see it at the corner of my eye, and I actually thought it was coming to get me for a split second. But
I can't wait to read this and find out what you guys are talking about. And I don't want you to explain it because I really do want to read it now. That sounds really freaking interesting.
It is. Are you a fast reader, Adrian? How do you?
I'm a very slow reader. And I probably reread things over and over again sometimes to like really retain them. It's just an attention thing with me. But
you've got to kind of just sit down and kind of buckle down. That's how I read as well. I can't be reading with music going on.
No.
I have to kind of sit down and dedicate time to it.
Yeah, the world has to kind of be asleep for me to read. Like I can't read when my kids are awake and running around the house. Like,
to leave the world to one side and be like, okay, it's quiet time. I'm reading. I need to kind of focus.
Right now, I'm reading Kent Sean's Forbidden. I'm doing an arc review. It's going to be the first episode of Chronicles when it returns after Livestream Sunday. So I'm deep into that right now, and he's going to send me the other ones. But I'm starting with Forbidden. I hadn't been actually read Blind Spot yet, so it's going to be.
Blind Spot. It's going to be interesting to see what you find.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, like at first I wanted to dedicate time to it first and then dive in, but I'm number one, I'm pressed for time, and number two, I'm like, I kind of want to know what it's like to do that. I've never done that before. Like dive into a second in a series and see how it goes. Yeah.
And maybe when you read Blind Spot, a lot of your questions that you might have might be answered. Because I remember one of the first books I read, I was 8. My nan bought me Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Because we couldn't get the first one, because it was just in the sort of cusp. It was 1998, shows my age. Just at the cusp of the kind of like Harry Potter craze, and I got the second book and started with that. And then I managed to read the first book, and then answered a lot of questions. But now I've actually become quite a sort of voracious kind of. I've got to read books in order. Doesn't matter if they're kind of like standalone books. I mean, the only kind of exception to that, I think, is like the Lee Child books. I quite like them. Those are really good that you can just pick them up in any particular order and just kind of like...
The Jack Reacher books?
Oh, I love those.
Yeah.
They're really good.
They're really good.
The way I
That's a different kind of series, though, right? Where like each book is its own thing. It's not, it's like the James Bond books and stuff like that.
But it's technically not. There is... I'm sorry, I'm
very loose thread, isn't it?
I think there's is it 3 or 4 books that have and I mean it's a very loose thread. It does come. They actually made the second movie is the end of the thread of the kind of 3 books. I think it was called Never Go Back.
That's a good book.
It was a good book. But you're right. You can almost just pick them up. The James Bond have very. I think the later James Bond books have a kind of thread after, what's the name of it? You Only Live Twice.
Yeah.
So I think just whatever the one is.
And I feel like the early ones, like even though they were very isolated in the adventure, I feel like they were very focused on the early part, especially Casino Royale. So like that, there's a kind of an order to that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the phrase I kind of use for like the Jack Reacher books is they are a literary packet of crisps. You kind of pick one up, open it.
Yeah,
you pretty much know the experience you're going to get. You finish it, you put it down, you think that's fine, then you have the next one whenever.
Yeah, exactly.
They're like literary snacks. It's
See,
good.
and in a way, I would put Michael Crichton in that same kind of thing for for more serious readers, like more like genre readers rather is what I meant. The sci-fi readers and stuff that just kind of need like something that's like gonna be fun and thrilling
Like a
and exciting.
book.
Like the what?
I'd call it like a detox book. So
Yeah.
It's like I just did an arc for Chris Kenny for his second book, and to kind of detox from that arc, it was a really good book he's written. So he's really well done. I went and read Angels and Demons by Dan Brown. I have to say it's one of my favourite books of the year.
What a book, man! Yeah, what a book.
Yeah.
I mean, it's totally
Good
off
one.
the wall and bonkers, but you can suspend your disbelief just enough time for the plot to kind of carry through. And I thought it was great. I'm not afraid to say, I think his books are actually pretty good. I mean, yeah, they might be really clunky prose.
No,
They're
you're
fun.
right. It's great.
They're fun.
Great thrillers. They're great
The prose is
thrillers.
that clunky. I think it does the job. And they're enjoyable reads.
And not to keep bringing it back to Michael Crichton, but he keeps applying to it. But
You can do.
Dan Brown does something very similar to Michael Crichton, which is the biggest like lesson that I take from Michael Crichton is his world building is very kind of different, where he doesn't have to create an entire new fantastical universe. Like his stories for the most part take place in what we would consider the real world, or a place in the real
In a
world.
pocket of the real world.
But he'll choose a location that's special, and he makes that the world of the story.
Does it really well.
And he builds that section of the world just so well, whether it's the island for Jurassic Park, or it's the corporate offices and legal rooms of disclosure,
or even like the fictional aircraft company in Air Freight.
the underwater
unbelievable.
habitat in Sphere. Like one of my
Exactly.
favorites is Sphere, because it's such a trippy book, and that's another one, right? Like he creates that worlds and makes the world building contained in that area so specific that
really well.
it becomes like that thriller. It's awesome.
And it's really
Like, I
taut
try to do
and
that.
claustrophobic. It's really contained. It's really good.
Yeah. So that's what I try to kind of learn from him and bring to my stuff from him is
Definitely.
this idea of like making the location special in some way, so that it becomes the whole world,
That's why I picked the tower block in Nightmare Tenant, because I thought this is a self-contained place to hold all of the story.
Tower block is a really, it instantly brings images of The Raid. If you haven't seen, that movie.
Love that movie.
Oh, dude, Richard, if you haven't seen it, because I didn't see a reaction on your face, The Raid is incredible. The Raid Redemption is the one that's called in the English dub. But man, what a movie! And it all takes place in one, tenant building.
I'm going to have to look that up now.
Oh, you'll love it. It's fantastic.
Dude, if you like action movies and like kung
That'll
fu and
do.
stuff, it's outstanding.
Oh, it's
outstanding.
it's outstanding.
You
Yeah.
can't go wrong with a bit of that, can you?
Yeah, and then like immediately like send me an email afterwards like about how much it blew your mind, because there's some kills in that movie where you're just like,
Oh, yeah.
like
Yeah.
they're good.
And Adrian, when you read Nightmare Tenant, you've got to send me an email. Say,
I'm gonna do that. I'm looking forward to reading Nightmare Tenant because I love like haunted house kind of stuff, and the idea of it being like this tenement building or whatever. Like, dude, like I'm in like this creepy place. Sounds awesome, and and it's one of those things where like the location of your story, if that's the thing that makes your story special, you know what I mean? If that's like the draw, then making it something really unique like that, or not necessarily unique, but taking an everyday thing like a tenement building and turning it into something unique like that just sounds like right up my alley, man. That sounds good.
thank you.
Let's see here. So along the way, who have been your biggest like advocates and supporters and in your works and your readings and all that?
Richard Holliday.
Oh, thank you for introducing me, Adam.
Yes, for those, but just so you know, for those listening on Spotify or whatever, this is Adam Stevenson. This is not Gerard Butler. I get told that I sound like Gerard Butler if I've had a drink. So this is Adam Stevenson. This is not Gerard Butler, and we are not Sparta. Okay,
But we are though.
but we are though. No, Richard. without Richard, my blog would not have. I don't want to use the word taken off. That sounds as if I'm, some fantastic.
You wouldn't have got some
blogger.
steam up for it.
But yeah, Richard read my blog when it first came out on Medium, and then he told me that it was good, which he did. But you did tell me that for the amount of content I was bringing out, because it's new and fangled, that you did think I was going to run into problems, which I did. And you told me to move to WordPress, and then you did take the time to show me how WordPress worked, made sure my links were working and things like that, and basically just general chat. So you've been there, man. So thank you for that.
I'm glad that I've been able to be like a positive influence in that regard.
Who else? Bethany,
Bethany.
or as I like to call her, Penny Lane from Almost Famous, because she just reminds me of that scene in Almost Famous where I'm sitting on that bus with people like Kent and Richard and Martin and all these really good writers, and I'm like, what am I doing here? And I'm like that. I need to go home, and she's like, you are home, and I'm like, oh, okay. So actually,
she has such a sort of calming influence, doesn't she?
She did, and when I first met her,
Soothing.
I didn't even know she was the person that made the Discord. It was just someone who kept talking to me and put me under the line for a bit.
When I met her, I just knew her as Kent's editor. I was a little bit like, we've got to be on the best behaviour here, but she's a chill penguin, shall we say.
She's fantastic, man.
I'm trying to remember how it was that I first encountered her, because I'm sure it was around the same circles and time as discovering Kent Sean and those other guys. I feel like I know that Danny Ranger was the first person to kind of reach out to me and
he's
connect.
a good guy.
And we struck up a friendship pretty quickly. And that's probably like how I got to Bethany is through that circle. But I really don't remember. She just feels like she's always been around. Like she's
always been a good presence, hasn't she?
Yeah.
She's one of the keepers. I mean, if I had to say my biggest advocate and supporter, it'd have to be the man, the myth, the legend that is Chris Kenny, because he's always very supportive, and he's always, very, very sort of championing me when I kind of think I don't deserve it. Because we went to school together, and then over the last sort of few years we've become really kind of close, talking about writing and stuff.
Yo, is your house haunted? What is happening? You're haunted, dude. That was the ghost.
That's it. Don't go to the bathroom. Keep away from the
that was the ghost. Oh my god!
I'm so scared. I'm just going to start sleeping in this room. But we really kind of like bonded over the last couple of years about the writing, and we are very much on the same sort of wavelength. I'm sure his books have thrown themselves at him as well. He's been a great sort of support, critique partner, and
I'm just watching your books now, man. Like I can't even hear.
I'm literally going to just sort of sit like this. Use this chair as like a shield from these falling books.
Yeah. Oh man,
Richard, we should also mention the other members of the Brit Pack as well.
Oh, the Brit Pack. Colin Clark.
Colin Clark. He was another one of the first people to.
Martin Lejeune.
Martin Lejeune. Oh, he's a character of himself. Is Martin? He is a goose.
He is.
Yeah, that's something that I really love about the whole Authortube community is so many like interesting characters among us, man.
Don't know how I got here then.
I say that in a good way, like
there are lots of very
as complimentary
as
I could possibly mean it.
Lots of interesting, diverse kind of schools of thought, which is nice
and very welcoming. I got into in real, I hate to use the word in real life, but in person, we'll call it in person because we are real.
Yeah, in person.
When I was starting, I've stopped and started my writing journey a good few times, and I got into a writing community for a little while in person, which I liked until it came for me to share some of my work, and people took major umbrage with two poems that I wrote. One, I think I was 23 at the time, and I remember I wrote a poem about being 20. So I gave them that poem, and people took umbrage because of a line in it. And I done another poem where almost all the lyrics were Iron Maiden songs. Like, so all the bits were Iron Maiden songs. And when I revealed that to them, someone got so angry that they went, "Nope, I've had enough," got up and stormed out of the restaurant that we were in.
That is very bad.
And
Not happy.
I was, and I just
Who are
felt
these people? Like,
do you know what? I don't know. So I just that left a bad taste in my mouth. But to go from there to here, to our loving community where people are actively wanting me in things. Like I remember, for example, not to bring it up again, but you reached out, Adrian. You were talking about you were looking for people. And I was like, I've never done a live stream, and you or a live interview, and you went,
you were trying to talk me out of inviting me.
and you were just like, what was your line again? I was like that. Nah, I don't think I'd be very good. And you said a line like, well, you'll never get anywhere thinking like that. And then you booked me in for what was the 28th, my birthday. And since then, I think Richard reached out, going, "Do you want to do this?" So I did.
You've done a few, haven't you? Done one with Colin.
I've been on Colin's. I've been on Colin Clark's YouTube every Friday, apart from that Friday there, because I was out celebrating on my birthday. I've been on almost every week in some way on Authortube for at least the past month, 2 months.
There you go.
I've not even published anything. I'm a blogger.
Neither have I.
I know. I love it.
Okay, here's the thing, man. Like Ken Sean is going to be the first one to tell you that you're not going to find readers on YouTube. That's not what it's for. And I completely agree. But you know, he and I are still both on here. You know, there's value to being on here. There's networking. There's a community full of supportive people. There's very educated people on here that can help you, figure things out along the way. I was talking to him, not on a show. We were just talking the other day, and he, he lamented that he's surprised at how many people out there are writing stuff, and when he talks to them about like the fundamental elements of writing, they don't know what he's talking about, and he finds it very surprising that so few of them are even looking into the intricacies of writing. And I hear him, man. Like I mean, like that we all start somewhere though, and those people are just starting out and they don't know what they don't know. And that's the biggest thing, right? Is you don't know everything that you don't know.
Yeah. And sort of following on from that, I studied creative writing at university and I got a degree in it. And I've probably learned more about sort of craft and story and things like that in the last 18 months of being part of the community on Discord, talking to people, coming on YouTube, all that sort of thing. I probably learned more from that kind of community than I did in 3 years being an official kind of scholar of creative writing. So that's a really sort of credit to this community, and a bit of a kind of a diss to my course in a way, but no, it's what it is, isn't it?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, man, like everybody you meet knows something that you don't know. And there's something to learn from everybody. So like,
I think that's a real positive attitude
together this way. Yeah, absolutely. And for us to all band together on this one platform and spend time together talking about what we do and how we do it and how best to do it and all that stuff, like it's only going to make you better as long as you're still doing the writing and as long as you're applying the things that you are learning. Don't waste time like getting caught in rabbit holes on YouTube and not get any writing done. Like you gotta still do the writing. If you're not writing, you're not a writer. Yeah. If you're a writer, you gotta write. For sure. But man, like that's the thing is like I'm not published. I don't have a book out, but I'm working on it, and I'm in a stage where I've never been before. Like I've never been this far along in the stage of a thing, like creating a thing and putting it out there. Like I'm publishing this book and its sequels. So being on YouTube and on Instagram, especially on Instagram, I reach like my audience is like twice the size of my YouTube audience on Instagram.
Instagram's good fun, isn't it? And I say that from a kind of like a surprising perspective.
Adam, you gotta get on
it.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I don't have an Instagram. I
need to get the username.
I hit you up the other day. I was like, "Do you not have an Instagram?" I was looking for it.
And Barrett has messaged. I think Barrett's wanting me to commune with him, and he's going to really help me. I'm not a fan of Twitter because
very wise.
There was someone on Twitter there was someone who in person was the nicest, sweetest to me ever, and started to maybe catch one or two feelings as one does. Sure. And then a friend of mine found the person's Twitter, and they were like tweeting about me while I'm talking to them, saying some really derogatory things.
That's really bad. This actually kind of go on, Adam.
Yeah, no, it was, and that has just made me not want to touch Twitter.
I don't blame you, because I had this sort of similar experience at university. I was in a sort of like a feedback group, and there would be one. I remember there was a friend of mine, her name was Rosie. I probably shouldn't be saying the name, but hey, who cares at this point? Anyway, she was reading her story, and literally there was this person who we knew had a penchant for Twitter, shall we say.
Okay.
They were literally saying one thing to her in the feedback group and bad-mouthing her piece on Twitter. And I just thought, you know what, that's real bad form. That's just...
well, yeah.
Well, it's a coward. It's the act of a coward, putting up a false front. And
I think if you've got something to say about someone's work, you say it to their face. You've got to say it to their face. Because,
you got, be a man. If you're going to be a dick, be a dick in person.
And I can confirm that guy was a dick.
Yeah.
It sounds it, man.
Well, of course he was.
Yeah, I just thought, what a weasel. Just, ugh.
And the detrimental effects
don't insult weasels like that. They're perfectly fine animals.
And I'm not being funny. He was saying all this stuff about this girl's piece of writing, and they were purportedly supposed to be friends. So heaven knows what he said about people he didn't like.
And something that she probably put a lot of work into it and a lot of herself.
Yeah, it was a real quite a personal piece.
Yeah.
But
what a dick! Fuck that guy.
No. Oh yeah, totally.
You know what? That's interesting. Let's talk about that. Who? Because we're on the subject. Who's your biggest doubter that you can't wait to prove wrong by living large?
Wow.
It's
a loaded question.
Who's your hater? Everybody's got a hater somewhere.
For me, Adrian. Okay, so what I'm going to do is
you don't have to name their actual name. You can disguise their name.
No, it's fine. I'm going to put it in ascending order. Right. First off,
he's got multiples.
I've got multiples. Did you say living well? Right. Okay, Adrian. To me, living well is not the best revenge. Complete annihilation of your enemy is the best revenge.
If you're at war.
No, just in general, bro. Just in general. But anyway. Wait a minute. I'm going to pull myself away from the right wing for a moment. No. I'll probably say that I'm my biggest doubter. I very rarely.
We're gonna get
I
deep.
know. I very rarely bet on myself. I mean, when I do, and I don't do it often. When I do, I bet big, but I don't usually bet on myself. However, I have been part of this community for how long, Richard? Over a year now. It must be over a year, right? And when I've been putting my stuff into Flasher, Has, and whatever else, I've never got terrible feedback. Ever. So I'm like, okay.
You're kind of like the one. You're like your own biggest critic. I think we're all kind of good.
Yeah, to an extent.
All our worst critics, aren't we?
And that's good. It's healthy to be your own biggest critic. It's but it's also good to kind of talk yourself up a little bit too, and be your biggest cheerleader.
Yeah, of course. One of the best advice I ever got was you've got to be the best Adam Stevenson in the world, because if you don't believe you are, no one else will.
Yeah,
exactly. You got to give yourself value if you want other people to value you.
This is true. Number 2 would be a primary school teacher of mine, Mrs. Burns, who told me that I would never amount to anything.
I hear so many stories of teachers saying this to children. Yeah. Who are these people and why are they teaching?
Now that I'm an adult,
I've never had a teacher say something like that to me.
Now that I'm an adult, and because of the time period it was, I can cut her a bit of slack because I was dyslexic and had other issues, and I do think maybe she was not equipped to teach me. Okay, now that may be giving her a pass, but nobody tells a child that. What?
It's an awful thing to say.
It is an awful thing to say, but it also occurs to me that I lied just now. I do remember a teacher who said something really shitty to me once. I was in community college, what we call it here, community college. So it was my first year. I was 18. I was fresh out of high school. And it's my first year, and I mean, I'm taking some, algebra class that I have to take because I didn't do very well on my placement test. But it's all stuff that I knew I just fucked up on the test. So I don't take good tests. So I'm in this class and I know everything that he's teaching, right? So he gives assignments, he tells us, what to do, and I do the assignment, and I'm always the first one done. And I kind of just turn in my work and I leave. I'm always the first one to leave every one of his classes. And I guess he was taking that to be very disrespectful.
Yeah. he took it in the wrong vein, man. Yeah.
So it's funny because like he gives us like a half hour to do a thing. I do it in 10 minutes. I turn in my paper and I'm like, all right, deuces, and I'm out. And on this particular day, as the door is closing behind me, I just hear him say to the rest of the class, I fucking hate that kid. and I stopped and I was just like, did he really just? And the door closed and I was like, I'm not coming to this class anymore. And I just left. I stopped coming to the class.
I must say, I love your self-control. I love your self-control. If that was me at 18, I would have busted back open that door and been like, what did you just say?
See, number one, I didn't know how to fight back then. Like if somebody was really talking like serious trash and wanted to fight, I would have gotten my ass kicked. So I wasn't the confrontational type back then. Nowadays, because I do know how to defend myself, I suffer no fools these days. So even working in hospitality, even being behind a desk where I'm supposed to smile and treat everybody, with respect.
And I do. Thinking I want you to die.
No, I'm saying like if they come up and they, and they cross that line where like now they're just straight out disrespecting me and treating me like garbage, I just don't take that anymore. And if I have to come around the counter, I'll come around the counter because like I know I'm good. And every single one, anybody who gets in your face when you're behind a counter and they're on the other side, that's a coward that if that counter wasn't there would not be doing they would never do that. And so once you come around that counter, it's over. They shrivel up and they run. So it's one of those things where like I don't play that shit no more.
No, man, that's it.
I mean, my answer to that question is kind of school related. So I was thinking about this, and one of my favorite quotes is the best revenge is massive success, and that's by Frank Sinatra. It's a good quote to live by.
If there's anybody who knows what he's talking about.
He knows what he's talking about. So basically, I had a university lecturer, and his name was James Miller. I'm not afraid to name him because I don't give a shit.
Okay.
I ran out of shits to give a long time ago. Anyway.
Where are all my shits?
He was like the epitome during my university of a proper literature crowd. The looking down your nose at genre fiction and it's all rubbish. But he really kind of epitomised the sort of worst kind of like snobby, sneery attitude. I remember when I was studying at university, he set one of his books as the set text. He did a lecture on setting. It was a post-apocalyptic book, and it was a not bad book, but the trouble is, first of all, he kind of made a big point of saying, it's a modern retelling of Heart of Darkness. And I'm thinking, just call it a bloody genre fiction book and be happy about that. But you could tell he had delusions of grandeur. Anyway, didn't want to be just a genre fiction writer. I'm above that. I'm thinking, fuck off. Oh, sorry, am I allowed to swear?
Absolutely. We have been swearing. Like, what are you talking about? We've been swearing a lot.
I just wonder the attitude of this guy. I know someone said to him, because he was talking about sort of setting and all that sort of stuff, this post-apocalyptic book. Someone said, have you played the Fallout video games, which are obviously very well known for
their... they're very popular, yeah.
Oh, wonderful. And he just sort of, got on and going, I don't play video games. And it's that kind of real negativity and kind of like, I just think that kind of negativity just doesn't do the community any favours.
No.
It just gets people's backs up and kind of, it creates that unnecessary dividing line that I think exists between the sort of genre fiction and the literary fiction. So I just kind of really want to do well in my unashamedly genre writing, just to say, you know what, James Miller, you're a fucking twat.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean,
I'm not being funny. I don't want to be negative myself in saying it's a driving factor for me, but I just kind of want to prove. Yeah, I want to prove him wrong.
Man. Well, that's why I posed the question in the first place, because number one, we all have those people in our lives that are just sources of negativity, and it's one of those things where it's like, how do you like deal with these people and keep them out of your space, and then if you're not going to punch them in the face, then how are you going to get your revenge on this person? And if it's,
I'm going to prove him wrong.
Yeah, succeeding at doing what they and it's one of the reasons that I'm writing my book the way that I am. There's every accomplished author tells every new writer the same thing about their first novel. Don't make it a part of a series. Don't write a giant epic. Don't write with multiple point of view characters. Keep it simple. Keep it a one and done story, whatever it is. It's your first book. Just get it out there like that. And I'm like, mine is the first in a trilogy, and I have multiple point of view characters, and I have
500,000 words.
Yeah, it's a giant epic, 150,000 words, and I'm genre bending. Like, I'm not sticking to any one genre, and it's one of those things where like you're not supposed to do any of those things for your first book, and I'm like, yeah, but I'm gonna do it because I can. It's one of those things where like that's what I like to read, that's what I like to write, that's what I'm gonna write.
Exactly.
And in my opinion, genre is set dressing. It's mood, it's lighting, it's theme, but
it's the background to the actual story.
The actual story is your characters, and whether your character is a real life person or it's an alien from Karnak 7, it's still a living thing with emotions and choices and consequences, and that's where your story is.
This is what I think this guy I encountered didn't get. He just thought it's proper writing. It's got to be, really hand wringing. It's got to be really deep and meaningful, and genre is just bread and circuses. One
of my favorite examples of how genre just doesn't matter. People are in love with the A Song of Ice and Fire books, and Game of Thrones became the biggest show of all time when it was at its height. It's a fantasy, right? And everybody was like, I can't believe that a fantasy is at the these heights, and so many people are into fantasy. And I'm like, yeah, but the fantasy is the set dressing. The first season or the first book,
it's a political thriller.
Not only that, it's a murder mystery. Who killed John Aaron? It all begins with who killed John Aaron, and you don't even get that answer until book 4.
It's a political thriller. It's a murder mystery. It's even a historical fiction. It just takes place in a make-believe place.
And that's the kind of stuff that I love, man, is when you have this world that's so big and so vast that you can tell all kinds of different stories. One of my characters is a bounty hunter who is trying to keep his honor code intact against all odds. Another character is the detective hunting down a serial killer. So that's a whole other genre. The another character is this hippie witch character who's discovering the powers that she has within her, and that's a very fantastical, magical kind of story. There's another character who's a side character in book 1 that becomes bigger as she goes along, who brings a cyberpunk, androids and cyborgs kind of thing to the story. Like, I'm playing with in all of those worlds, and
it's going to be interesting to see how those all mesh together.
Yeah,
bananas. You guys haven't read my chapters. That's right. I gotta send you guys chapters.
You gotta send me chapters. Come on, do the thing.
I'll send you guys. I like to send everybody what I call the first act of the book. It's the first 6 chapters, and it just kind of sets everything up. It takes you up to the point where like the first big turn happens, where that's the kind of story we're reading. I'm kind of into.
Send it over. I'd love to read it.
Will do. You guys will have them in your email tonight, and that's actually a really good point because we're getting to the end of our episode here. Richard, you have 2 books out right now, my dude.
I do.
Not only is one of them free, so everybody go sign up for the newsletter, but the other one is insanely cheap. So why don't you go ahead and give us the elevator pitches for each of those 2 books?
That's a very good question. I'm going to have to think about the elevator pitch for Nightmare Tenant. That's going to be a bit of a... So what can we say? We have a modern kind of chilling twist on the haunted house saga. It sort of takes place in a hastily refurbished tower block. Some of the old residents haven't left, and new families are moving in, and things begin to degenerate, and it leaves a normal man and his family have to kind of escape and confront this nightmare tenant, who's kind of been at the top, not liking what's happening to the building. He has his own ideas of the perfection. He thinks he should be left alone. So it's a big clash between the past and the future, and it all comes to a head. So yeah, give it a read. If you sign up to my newsletter at richardholliday.co.uk, you can get the creepy 70s set thriller prequel called Foundations straight to your inbox. So you find out the kind of origin story of how it all began.
Oh All right.
Alright,
And
alright.
so Foundations is the prequel, which is a great name, by the way, for a story
you.
about a haunted building. Have you watched The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix?
It's been on my list for a little while. I know it's a book as well, isn't it?
It is a book as well, yes. I have not read the book. I've only seen the show. But I consider that show a masterpiece of the genre. It's an incredible piece of storytelling.
And I think the haunted house story is just like a really ripe kind of thing to be innovated with.
Yeah.
And we all think we know, but there's always like a new twist you can add to it. So I've kind of gone for
In the
like
case of
modern-
Haunting of Hill House, they kind of come at it from the angle of mental illness and family trauma. Like every character that has been touched by this house has been affected by it throughout the rest of their life, and so you're kind of getting like the after effects of the haunted house. You know what I mean? It's just
I mean, in
pretty
Nightmare
intense.
Tenant, you kind of get to meet the good and the bad of society, and they all kind of are forced to intermingle together to defeat this greater evil that begins kind of feeding off all this negative energy. So it does become a sort of a real. I think definitely the third act becomes like a disaster movie in a way, which is really
Nice.
which is fun to write. And I think Adam.
That's fun
that
too
gives
when the
it away.
genre kind
Yeah.
of changes at some point in the story.
Yeah, exactly.
Now
I
we're
kind of
here.
yeah.
Yeah, Adam, what
Yeah.
kind of release date do you have an idea of in your mind? Like even if it's a vague.
You mean for Cathys Song?
Yes, sir.
I'm not gonna lie, I don't. What I would really like to do though, because I'm trying to get one blog done a month up until February next year, and then at that point, I've got some other ideas for blogs, but I think I do need to concentrate a bit more on Cathys Song. I do have I call it a zero draft, and the zero draft is really bad. It'll be things like they fall out, he says something romantic, she leaves on a
Sounds
plane.
like an outline. Yeah.
Yeah, I made it, although I do have some chapters where it's a lot more than that. You know what I mean? Like a lot more. So I'm working through the ones where I've got a lot more. They almost look like chapters. I would love to have that. I something will have went completely awry if I do not have a first draft of it finished by the summer of next year at the latest.
You can do
But
it. You're gonna do it.
looking at my friends, looking at people like Hannah and Richard and things who, these are people I talk to on a semi-daily basis who have got books out. So I mean, I would really love to be having this conversation with you again about this time next year and have a date in place.
Oh,
But
hell yeah,
I
man.
will need to ask Richard and some other people, because I'm just going to use Hannah's book here. I want a physical book as well as digital. A lot of my family do have Kindle,
We do love paperback.
but I do want
Ooh.
a physical copy of my book, but I don't know how much that would cost. These are things that I don't know. At the same time,
Yeah.
I've got this series that I want to do for my blog called Adam Rewrites that just keeps coming, which is where I take films that I have enjoyed varying degrees and then I change them to make them sort of better, in my opinion.
Nice.
And the first one I've got is, do you remember the Jennifer Lawrence, Chris Pratt vehicle, Passengers? Right?
Yes.
Little bit
I have a feeling I already know where you're going to go with it, but what would you
Well,
change to fix
what I
that
would
movie?
change
I
is
know what I would change.
Right, well, a lot of people would change a lot of different things, but I'm going by what the trailer gave me and my personal opinion on Love. Okay, big controversy about that film is what happens.
Mhm.
So I think he's been alone for, is it a year? I think by the time that event happens, the one, I don't want to give away spoilers to a film that's that old. Okay, what happens if you make it 5 years? What happens if he's read nothing but her work for like 3.5 years? And I would change that, and I would also change. I would change some other things. I would change. I'll just talk about it, like the reveal that one of them can go back to sleep. I would have that happen way earlier. So I would have that. You need to have two of the characters believe in their position of power. So he knows that she can go back to sleep, but I've got something else that she knows about those two characters as well. Because do I want to believe that they can fall in love? Definitely. You know what I mean? But I think there needs to be longer. A year alone isn't that bad, really. Let's be honest. Hey, we almost did it. Let's be honest. COVID
Yeah.
and stuff. 5 years? 5 years.
Oh,
See, here's
5
what I would
years.
change.
look at that again.
Here's what I would change in that movie.
Okay.
Rather than beginning the movie with him waking
I've
up and
heard
spending
this
all that time
theory.
alone,
Yeah.
you start with her. You start with him waking her up. You don't know that he's woken her up. You just know that she's awake and there's only one other person awake on the ship, and you slowly reveal that over time.
Over time, I have
that
heard
reveal
theory.
would have been so much more powerful if the audience didn't
If the audience
know.
did.
And it would have changed the entire movie.
The entire movie.
It would have turned into a horror movie because all of a sudden she's with somebody she can't trust.
You can't trust. But my change is I actually go back further. So it actually starts, because Andy Garcia's in that movie for like one scene, right? So I thought, so why don't we start with him? And he's talking to, because it's about colonization, and he's talking to the shrink. And the shrink's like, I've got this problem. And he's like, will you be able to fix it? And she's like, yeah, I've got time. So the reveal is, the Jennifer Lawrence character finds out that they've got a matchmaking system when they go to, and those are the only two of everybody that are actually compatible for one another. So she knows that, right, but doesn't tell him. But he then knows that she can go back to sleep. So when you get to the kind of finale part, they've both realised they've got kind of something to lose, and then they realise that. Do you know what I mean? Like they end up coming to it at a different angle, so it becomes less creepy and less sort of,
and more of a true romance in a way.
More of a true romance. And in the trailer, there is a part that they cut where Chris Pratt says to her, "I think the ship woke us up." So I would leave it ambiguous of did he wake her up or did the ship know?
You know what? That's
he's
better.
Got this amount of,
the ambiguity is better.
He's got this amount of skill, but he needs this, or else we're not going to be able to fix the ship. So it's almost like the ship knew. They need, you know, and it deals with that, which I think is easier than just. And I don't want to get political, but villainising a man for.
We have to wrap up soon, but I like this idea of you revisiting, you know, other films that you liked or wanted to see better. And I have a plan that I never. It's a bug in here. I have a plan for two different sort of fan fictions, so to speak, where I wanted to revisit two shows that I loved at first, and then over time they fell apart on me. We spoke about one on Livestream Sunday. It was Dexter.
Yep, Dexter. Yep.
And the other one for me was Heroes. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to take the 5 seasons of Dexter that I wanted to keep, the first 1 through 5, and I wanted to rewrite the 6th season as the final season. Like literally scrap everything 6 through 8 and just write a new final season in the 6th. That's what I wanted.
Doing your own ending to it.
Doing my own ending to it.
Doing it properly.
And as I think would be doing it properly. And then the other one was Heroes, where I wanted to keep all of season 1 as perfect and pristine as it is, and just rewrite everything from season 2 onward. One of the things that show set out to do and never followed through on was a different cast of characters on a different story, an anthology series. Every season being a completely different show. And they didn't do that because once the characters from season 1 became so popular, the network wouldn't let them do that. They were like, no, you got to keep the same cast, keep these same characters, keep it going.
Purposes, wasn't it?
And all of those characters had been through an arc in that first season that brought them to an end. Yeah, and then it was like, well, where do you take them now? And that's where everything started falling apart. Yeah. So I wanted to go back to what they originally intended and have a new cast of characters, but what I wanted to do was justify the absence of all those popular characters from before as them being on these sort of solo adventures in isolation or in exile or whatever. And depending on the character, I had different reasons for why they're sort of off screen. We follow new characters, new adventures for like 2 or 3 seasons, and then all those first season characters come back towards the end. Yeah. And now they're legendary, you know, heroes, and they have like all these adventures behind them to pull from, and it would have been a much bigger, like climactic, you know, kind of ending. But I never pulled the trigger on either one of those things. I just have plans for both of them, and I hope to someday do them. But I'm more focused on like my own. Yeah. I want I thought about maybe doing it as a newsletter, like flash fiction kind of series, like just throw little pieces up. Yeah, I'll figure it out. Gentlemen, It has been outstanding today. It has been so much fun. It has been a complete pleasure to have you guys on both of my shows. Thank you so much for being here. For everybody at home, thank you for watching. Thank you for watching the show. Thank you for listening. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Reviews on Apple Podcasts are a big help. That's what I need. That's where I want you to go. And come back on Sunday for Livestream Sunday with Kent Sean. It's the finale episode, and then we're on hiatus for 8 weeks. Yes, so please come. It's going to be awesome. A whole hour of Kent Sean just downloading crazy information into your brain. So let's freaking do it. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Ride on, riders.